Hi everyone, welcome to my first video, more of an opinion piece on do you need a degree to be an illustrator? Should I do one? And if so, how do I choose a course? I did my first bit of lecturing this year and it made me realise that I do have a few bits of wisdom, things I've learned along the way that I feel I could share with all of you and anyone that really fancies trying to make it in the illustration industry. So that's how we're here. Now I'm based in England, so that's going to affect how I talk about degrees. It varies across the entire world. Some countries are completely free, others are more expensive. So it depends on where you are in the world and also where you're born. For example, my friend Vicky told me that the illustration course in the Czech Republic was free, but much more prestigious and harder to get into. And this leads on to the first thing to consider. Money considerations. How will this affect you financially? So I have some figures here. If you're in England, you can pay up to £9,250 per year, plus living expenses. In 2014 to 2017, my 3-year course cost me £9,000 per year. I got a student loan like all my friends. It's just something to bear in mind that you come out of uni with a debt, but you will pay that back slowly and in small increments. I should say, depending on how much you're earning. It can get a little bit confusing, but I've found a really good couple of articles that explain how you pay back your student loan. So hopefully that will soothe your mind. I'll link them in the description below. But basically, just to ease your mind a tiny bit, you only start paying back your student loan once you earn over £27,295 per year, if your course started after the 1st of September 2012. What do you plan on getting out of university? What is your reason for wanting to go? Another thing to consider is what would be the reason for going to university to study illustration? And your specific reason. Are you planning on going to university because all your friends are going? Maybe your parents expect it of you. Is it an ego thing? Maybe you're not ready to leave education yet. Is it because you believe there's so much more to learn and you want to specialise? Or is it because you just don't know where to start and need some guidance? Maybe it's a mix of those or something completely different. Whatever your reason, it's actually fine, I think, as long as you're honest with yourself with the reason you're going. And the same for if you don't want to go. Either way is fine, completely no judgment, and there is no right way. I think I've just spoiled the theme of the video. But that is the honest answer. There is no one way to be an illustrator. Sorry guys. But I really just wanted to make you question, are you going along with the status quo or is there something else? The truth is, you do not need a degree to be an illustrator. That's a fact. In the age of social media, I think it's a little bit easier to make it, in my opinion. But if you're going down that route of, I don't need a degree because my social media will blow up, please just bear in mind that that's really hard and it requires a lot of luck, I think. Especially as Instagram gets a little bit more oversaturated with images. So don't put all your eggs in the social media basket. But the great thing about social media is that there are so many people sharing resources, their tips and tricks. Hopefully this channel will turn into a really useful resource for wannabe illustrators. The internet is so powerful and there's so much knowledge to be consumed. Pretty much whatever you have in mind, you can learn on the internet, and that's a fantastic thing. I also personally think there are things you need that are maybe more important than a degree, and I'll share those in a couple of minutes. But I personally had a great experience at university, and if I had the choice again, I would absolutely take it. So I just want to share with you what I personally got out of university. Please bear in mind everyone is different. Some people had really bad experiences at university. So do listen to people that can give you that balance as well. When picking a university for illustration, it's a really personal thing, and in my opinion you just need to tune into yourself and ask yourself, what do you need? Or what do you think you need the most? And I think in hindsight, I realised I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know what I needed to know, which was one of the benefits of going to university, because There are lecturers there that tell you what you don't know. But if you can, do try and ask yourself these questions like, do you want more autonomy and a studio space? Do you want to be challenged with critique? Do you want to have access to more life drawing? Do you want to know how to turn illustration into a career? Do you want access to workshops and to learn new skills? There were actually 2 reasons I chose Coventry University. The first was because they did fine art and illustration combined in a course, and I came from a sort of fine arty A-level background and I loved it, but I wanted to get into illustration, so this seemed like a perfect combination. And secondly, I really enjoyed how the course was less about your skill. They expected you to know how to draw before you got there, but it was more about how to develop concepts and how to make a career out of illustration, which was a focus that the other universities I went to see didn't have so much. Now, I had such an expectation of what university was going to be like, and for me, I thought it was going to include lots of life drawing. And a great point that a lecturer made was that you don't need a class on life drawing to do life drawing. You can do that anywhere. You can do it on the bus, the train, which I did actually. Now, when you're looking at universities, they'll try and bamboozle you with so many things. And it was my mum that gave me a really good piece of advice. She just said, go with your gut. And for some reason, that piece of advice has just stuck with me through everything, in general life as well. But especially for university, I think a good gut feeling can tell you a lot. And then when picking a university, I would advise not choosing somewhere just because it's good in the league tables. My friend did a course because the university was a good university, and I think he ended up regretting it, and he didn't have a good time at university, he didn't enjoy the course. So for me, league tables, just ignore them. Maybe just look at the student satisfaction part. That bit I would take into consideration. What I got out of university. For me, I think one of the main things I got out of university and why I would recommend someone else go to university, if it's right for them, was because I didn't realise how naive I was about the illustration world until I went. Before I went, I thought illustration was just book illustration, which is crazy because illustration is everywhere and there are so many different little pockets, and that's what's really exciting about it as well. You can really specialise in comic books or editorial illustration, advertising, or you can kind of be here, there and everywhere. But there was just so much more to illustration than I originally thought. Don't get me wrong, there was still a huge leap from university to the professional world, and I still entered the professional world really naive. And another thing I loved about university was that we focused on developing concepts and ideas generation, which turned out to be a strength of mine, and I take that through to my clients, and I love being involved in the ideas side of things as well as the illustration side. And then third year we had a whole module on copyright, tax, pricing, portfolios, how to market your work, how to approach clients, how to get clients, and it's just all the stuff you wouldn't really know how to tackle unless you've tackled it or unless you have someone else saying how they tackled it. And it's also the stuff you think, it's a bit boring, but these bits of information were the most valuable and I feel set me up in quite good stead for leaving university and entering the professional world. So yeah, I think learning how the world of illustration works was really valuable to me, and we had guest lecturers that would come in from different areas of illustration and design, and we also had one week, they called it Hell Week, and they reenacted what was meant to be our worst interview we'd ever have. So they were rude, they wouldn't listen, they were eating snacks, and it was just to see how we'd cope, and some people did not cope well. There was screaming, crying, and To be honest, I was expecting clients to be awful, and so far I've had pretty great clients, so I think I'm lucky. I think I was expecting a lot worse when I entered the professional world. Touch wood. And another thing I loved was the workshops and the facilities that the university had. And this is something that you don't realise what you've got until it's gone. Because coming out of university and into the real world, you don't get these facilities for free. Like we had lots of screen printing and woodwork and frame making, sculpture. And again, there was just so much knowledge to be consumed by all these experts that were there to help you throughout university learn all these new crafts. Metalwork. I even did some bronze casting, that was pretty cool. And then the other thing out of university, this was where I got accredited in Photoshop and Illustrator and most of my digital skills, Premiere as well, which I'm going to try and put into practice after shooting this. Now, of course, if you're someone that can watch endless YouTube videos, like everything's online to learn. But for me, I did kind of thrive in that education-y environment where it was a course and you had to show up every week and they taught you new things each week. So I think this is another thing to bear in mind. What kind of person are you? Are you someone that does thrive in education? I know a lot of creatives that it's just not for them and they're better at figuring it out their way. And don't underestimate the power of YouTube. And finally, maybe the most important thing I got out of university were my friends that I made for life. And going from school where everyone kind of veers off into their own path to suddenly being in a room full of 100 people that were all creative, like that room was a buzzing hive of creativity and ideas to be exchanged. Creative friends get you in a different way, because this is another thing I'm missing out of uni. I don't have that instant feedback, the having your flatmates pose for photos for you and you do the same for them. Group crits, when you've had a particularly harsh critique from a lecturer and they're there to pick you up because they know what it's like. And even bouncing ideas off people. This is something that creatives need. It's really hard to be creative on your own. I'm interested to see how other creatives have found it during lockdown, but for me, I get so buzzed out of being able to bounce ideas off other people, see what they think, and they usually improve my ideas as well. And there's nothing quite like that anymore. Of course, on social media, I'm always exchanging ideas with other creatives that I know in the industry, but it's not quite the same. There's not that je ne sais quoi. Make the most of your opportunity. A degree requires work and self-accountability. The lecturers aren't there to chase you like teachers used to be. And if you're not prepared to put in the work, just question if a degree is for you. And also illustration as a career, a lot of it is freelance and you're going to need that self-accountability, because if not, you don't have any money. But you know, sometimes it is just the course and you get there and it's not quite right, it's not for you. So check if your university allows you to switch course, because that's a useful thing to know that you can do. If you're not quite enjoying it, you can maybe switch from illustration to graphic design or animation or something you realise later might suit you a little bit more. Some universities do allow this, my one did, so yeah, just check. And something I don't think people really talk about that much is there shouldn't be any shame in quitting something that's not working for you, whether that's a degree or a job, maybe a course or a hobby. It's hard when you've put that much money into it, but if it's affecting your mental health, if it's not for you, maybe quitting would be the best option. Things I think are more important than a degree. So after university, I got my degree. I actually got a first in my degree, which I'm really proud of. But going into the real world, no one cared. No one ever asked if I had a degree, let alone what grade I got. All they cared about was the portfolio and previous work. So my advice there is just build up the portfolio, keep creating work, and then keep on showing people and getting critique on it, see what other people think you're missing from it. Now you can get access to that in different places. I know the Association of Illustrators, if you remember, they sometimes do portfolio critiques. D&AD is another one. When they were having their festivals, they'd offer some free portfolio crits. Ask your creative friends as well. Do a portfolio swap or something. These can be really helpful. But just a side note on portfolios, don't wait to build your perfect portfolio. It's never going to happen and you're never going to be happy with it. As long as you're creative, you're always going to keep wanting to better yourself. I do have another friend that's been building a portfolio for 2 years and I think it's just time to put it out in the world. Hint, hint, friend. Hint, hint. Lose that perfectionism, says the perfectionist. Another thing I think would be really helpful before you pursue a career in illustration is working out whether it's for you. I think, I don't want to give a wrong statistic, but I think 90% of illustrators are freelance. So bear that in mind. There are in-house opportunities available, and work out whether in-house would be better for you or whether you could hack the freelance lifestyle, which has some great pros, but also some cons and instability as well. I think I'll do another video on in-house versus freelance. But if you are going down the freelance illustration route, I think something that's much more important than having a degree, in my opinion, is having a thick skin, being able to put yourself up for rejection, a lot of rejection, and being okay with that and just being able to keep going. And then something else you could think about is building a social media presence, building a fan base and a Patreon. Perhaps that's more important for you and your illustration path than a degree. Where to begin if I decide uni is not for me? In addition to everything I've just said now, if you decide a degree isn't for you, perhaps you could consider doing a short online course, which will be a lot less money and a lot less time invested, but you can still get different skills out of it and maybe something that will give you some confidence to pursue a career or a specific skill. If you want to build technical skills, YouTube, Skillshare, and even your favorite creatives might have little videos, tips, courses. So for example, I'm currently doing a course with Lauren Hom all about how to paint murals because that's the next step I want to take in my career. Finally, just start drawing and showing people and telling people that you're an illustrator. When you tell someone you're an illustrator, that's what they label you as in their mind. Keep experimenting, seeing what you like to create, look at other creatives, start looking for illustration everywhere, in books, in magazines, on big billboards, and start seeing where your work could fit in, where you could imagine seeing your work. And then rather than waiting for someone to commission your perfect project, just do it yourself. So say you wanted to be hired by The Guardian, which I do, to do some editorial illustration. If you don't have any editorial illustration in your portfolio, you're probably not going to be hired to do more editorial illustration. Commissioners like to know what they're going to get. So find an article that hasn't been illustrated and draw some illustration to go alongside with it. And then boom, you got it in your portfolio. The best thing about illustration is it's everywhere. Just go to the supermarket and look at the packaging. A lot of that's illustration, probably by my best friend who does a lot of packaging illustration. It's everywhere and someone has to do it. So why not you? There's a career in it, I promise. I will talk about the hardships of it because it's not all sunshine and daisies. It's really, really hard. But, you know, there are many of us having successful careers in illustration. There are so many illustrators, and some of us did an illustration degree, some of us didn't. From my community that I know, it's probably about half and half. And nobody's path is the same. You might go to university and absolutely hate it, or you might thrive in that academic situation, and each uni differs as well. So I don't know whether this video has been helpful at all, but I just wanted to give you my experience of university, but also say it's not necessary if you're looking for that assurance in your choice not to go to university. With that said, I hope you got a little something out of this video. Let me know in the comments below what else you'd like me to cover, what topics are interesting to you, particularly around business and freelance illustration. If you want to support me, please like, subscribe, and share with anyone you think might benefit from these videos. All my love, see you in the next video.